Hey everybody. Um, Been a while. Still working on my outstanding feedback. But yeah, I'm getting back on track. I'm getting some grading done. I've done some stuff that's a little bit older, some stuff that's more recent. I want to walk you through some things, give you a preview, kind of like my normal. So let's talk trifles, jury. So let me point out a few things that I want to draw your attention to. So number one was Breland. I think that this is something that this is kind of a general comment, but one that I think is important. So I really liked how Breland first. Okay, two things. So number one, how she went. Okay, role exchange test, universal consequences test, new cases test. So she's going through and being like boom, 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 like really hitting these. But then also the layout. I think nowadays a lot of the writing that we do is needing to be directed more for a certain kind of audience. So an online audience, it's very much needing it to be direct to the point. I think that's why we're doing the technical writing, because this is what this is about. This is like, we're not trying to be flowery creative. We're trying to be direct and to the point. Also, the formatting here of like bullet lists. This is something that gets to the point. There were a number of responses that were, it was like, I'm not sure what's going on here. I just don't know. And I feel like being really blunt in your layout of like, okay, bolded, here's my first thing that I'm going to be talking about. A short title for it can be a really good habit to be in these kind of responses. Just going to throw that out there. So another thing, uh, I think Lauren did a great job at being involved in the comments. So had a solid post, but then went through and was giving feedback, giving other things. You can see up here, sharing a link to a different version, sharing a link to a video essay about it. I really like the engagement that I'm seeing, and really ask yourself, like, am I trying to, in these assignments where you're asked to comment on other people's assignments, are you engaging, or are you just kind of checking a box? And I feel like there's a lot that you can begin. Your goal should be to get more than your money's worth out of this class. And I think a way to do that is really pushing yourself to, okay, I've met the minimum requirements, but like, how can I actually, like, what are they getting at? Because I think that there's some really some powerful assignments that can really do a lot if you really own them and make them yours. Speaking of which, the technical report, um, and kind of moving forward in the semester, there's some assignments that are kind of asking you to submit smaller pieces that add together, adding up to a greater whole. Um, so I want you to be thinking about, okay, I'm being asked to make the graphics for this technical report, or I'm asked to do the annotated bibliography for the academic essay, or like whatever it is that you're being asked. Like, how does this fit into the whole process, the whole project? I guess that's kind of a side point. I pulled up the tech report, so I'm not really talking about what we're looking at. I wanted to point out, Adrian, though, with the tech report, there were a number of times in the feedback that I gave, I pointed out, it's like, this is a tricky assignment. There were students who were like, I don't know what they're asking for. I'm kind of at a loss. Um, and I think the important thing is that you're trying to, like, okay, based on what I think I understand, this is the best the most full way to answer that. I liked how Adrian worked through, like, okay, here are so like, the technical level of the other stakeholders. And I kind of got the feeling that she's just like, okay, I'm throwing in names that could be here, but like, uh, giving a good argument for that, of like, they must have a bachelor's master's degree between them, they have the countless hours of like, she must have, it's like, it doesn't really say it, but she's adding this information, like, what can I imagine would be the answer here, rather than, oh, it doesn't say, so I'm not going to say anything, of like, okay, I don't see a way to answer this based on what I'm given. I'm gonna use my creativity. I'm gonna use. Um, uh, we'll get to another point here in a second, but when we get to our other example. But I really like the fullness of how she responds. I like. So, for example, this physical size limit. That's kind of a weird way of saying that. It's like, well, wait a second, is my report going to be this big or this big? Like, it's like, what does that mean? But um, interpreting that as, okay, word count, um, and and putting that there. I think there's, well, let me move on to, yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to point out Victoria's one, because I think this illustrates what I'm saying. So um, she put, who is the primary reader? Richard Samuelson. And uh, most people didn't put that. Most people put John Isaacson, Alexa Torres, whoever that person is. But I really like how Victoria didn't just go with, like, okay, um, Richard Samuelson, but like looked up, like, okay, what are his certifications, doing some other stuff. And like, my point is that I think that there's an argument to be made for this. I don't think this is what the people who created the assignment intended when they said primary reader, but I think Victoria made it work. And so I did not deduct any points for that, because it's like, okay, it's a little, what did I say? Interesting approach. There's a little bit of ambiguity in there, but I think it works. So when you think about, when you run into this and you're like, I don't know what they're asking for. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Um, Stop for a second and be like, okay, do I have an argument for interpreting it in this way? Yes. How can I make that work? Okay, I'm going to do this to make it work. And even if you're wrong, your teacher, for me certainly, but I would argue that most other teachers will also be like, okay, I see where you're coming from. I think this is legitimate. I can't fault you on this, even though it's not quite right. You had a rationale behind it, you followed it through, and you did it. That's what this assignment is asking for in some ways. Whether you did what was intended originally, I recognize that there are more than one way to peel a hard boiled egg. I don't know. What what is the saying there that I'm looking for? Anyway, you get the idea. Anyway, um, deeper spiritual message there as well. I would argue that in life sometimes we are looking for, what does God want me to do? What do I have to do? How do I do this? When in actuality, it's like, there's a number of ways forward, and some of them will lead to pitfalls that God will definitely be like, oh yeah, you don't want to do that. Others will be like, that will work. Yeah, I like the initiative. Good work. Others will be like, yeah, that totally works too. Why that? Yeah, good work. And are we willing to show the initiative? I guess is the question. Anyway, I'm liking what I'm seeing. Good work. I'm working on catching up. I'll talk to you guys later.